Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview inspiring, fascinating women who are navigating aging with class and sass. I'm your host, Nicole Christina. Hey everyone, I am so grateful for all of the downloads, and I'd love a rating on iTunes and a comment. And please subscribe. It helps the show's rating so other people can find it and learn how to age well. And if you are loving the podcast, why not check out the companion online course, Zestful Aging, Simple and Sustainable Habits for Health and Longevity. You can access it through my website, NicoleChristina.com/Zestful Aging. It's based on the Harvard study of adult development, and I'm really proud of how it's turned out. Well, I've got my coffee in my hand and my trusty dog Sparky beside me, so let's begin. All right. Barb Demorest recently retired from her 30-year career as a CPA in order to pursue her passion for connecting volunteer knitters and crocheters with breast cancer survivors to provide free knitted knockers to those who can use them. Barb says, after hearing those awful words, "you have cancer," and struggling with the impact of having a mastectomy, a simple gift of comfort and dignity knit by a caring friend changed my life. Welcome, Barb.
Well, thank you, Nicole. It's very exciting to be here today and share with you and your listeners about knitted knockers and my passion.
Yes, I really would love you to tell the story. And I know you've told it before, but it's such a lovely story, a conversation you had with your physician when I believe he handed you the very standard prosthetics, and you had a conversation with him about that.
Yeah, well, Nicole, it actually began when uh, I had my mastectomy, and I thought that I was going to be immediately reconstructed, but because of complications, that did not happen. And so consequently, I was looking at what I could do as an alternative or to wear to get back to life. And I made this phone call to a local support group. And I'll never forget the voice on the other end of the line said to me, "Oh, honey, I am so sorry, but you can't put anything on that scar for at least 6 weeks." Well, I was just devastated because 6 weeks, I wanted to get back to life. I wanted to be normal. I wanted to re-engage, and it was just like 6 weeks. For me, that was literally the low point. That's the first time I cried, and it was a low point for me. So it was later that week when I was in at my doctor's office, and I picked up a brochure for the traditional breast prosthetics, and I was sitting in the exam room, and the doctors saw me, and he said to me, a lot of women are not really happy with that as a solution because they can be hot and heavy and sticky. They're very expensive, and you can't wear them for quite a while. And I said to him, well, what am I going to do? And he looked at me. This man looked at me, and he said, "Do you knit?" I was stunned. I was like, yeah, why? And he said, well, I've never seen one, but I've heard there's such a thing as a knitted knocker. You might want to check that out. And he had a picture of one and a website. And so I was so excited. I went home and I called my good friend Phyllis. I just wasn't in any shape at that point to make my own. So I said to Phyllis, "Phyllis, have you ever heard of a knitted knocker?" And she said, "No, but I'll find out." And so it was later that week when I ventured out into public for the first time, and I went to church. Well, here comes Phyllis tripping into church with a Victoria's Secret bag. And she gave it to my husband and she says, Denny, give this to Barb. Don't look inside of it. Well, when he found me and handed it to me, I knew immediately what it was. I had gone to church very self-conscious. I'd put on a loose-fitting jacket and just was very self-conscious. Well, when I got that bag, I knew, oh, this must be knitted knockers. So I went into the bathroom and I pulled out the most beautiful, soft, light knitted knocker. And it was made by a friend, somebody who cared. And I could wear it in my regular bra. I didn't need a prosthetic bra. So I went into the stall and I pulled out the sock that I had stuffed in my bra and I put that in. And I knew I could get a hug with that without feeling self-conscious. So I took off that jacket and I re-engaged with life. And I know, Nicole, this sounds dramatic, but it was life-changing to me. And so I knew immediately that we needed to provide these to the doctor's offices so that when a woman is in need of them, she can pick out her own and take them home and have them right away to wear. And I thought we can be Phyllis's to those that don't have a Phyllis to make them for them. So I contacted my doctor. My next visit, I was in there and I said, hey, these are great. If we make these and provide them to you, would you hand them out? And he said, I would love to hand them out. So that was the beginning of this adventure of knittedknockers.org. And so it's been quite a wild ride. That was back in 2011. And at that time, we were providing to our local doctor's offices, but we fast forward now to 7 years later, and we are providing to 1,100 medical clinics across the country. In addition, we are sending out 1,000 a month from orders at our website. So there was a lot getting from that beginning to this point. But it's been an exciting ride, and I have plenty of stories to share with you.
I can't wait to hear them. I think it's hard to put into words, and unfortunately, many women have had the experience of being diagnosed with breast cancer, but there's so many elements of loss and fear and horror. And boy, not to be too dramatic, as you say, or gruesome, but that scar is really dramatic. It's not just a little, a little scar. And I think it's hard to really put into words, not only having something like this for you, but just the symbol of, you know what, you know, someone's thinking of you, someone crafted this by hand. It's like a gesture that it must feel so meaningful for people.
Yeah, well, one of the things we found, Nicole, in the beginning, I knew we'd be providing this great service to women. We would be offering this physical product free of charge, by the way. We never charge for any of this. And we're all volunteers. But we knew we'd be providing this wonderful product to women. What we didn't realize is that we would also be offering a place of healing. When a woman goes online and she orders her free knitted knockers at knittedknockers.org, she chooses her size, A, B, C, D, double D, or beyond. She chooses a color. She chooses whether she needs single or a pair. And we send those to her. But we also have a comment section. And more often than not, the woman will take that opportunity to share her story with us. She will talk about the physical pain, but also the emotional pain. And many times she will share her struggles. And I believe that's because she knows we understand. And it's not
Mhm.
something that you always share with your friends or out there. We're all fine on the surface, right? We all are. How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. But when you've
Mhm.
got this opportunity to pretty much anonymously share your story, we find that many, many people do.
It's this place of loving connection.
It seriously is. And then beyond that, it what we realized is that those of us that are receiving these, I wore one for 3 years, and so I can relate to it, are receiving this gift of love and dignity and caring by complete strangers. But not only that, those of us that are making them for others receive that gift of knowing that we have purpose to what we're doing. Uh, at any phase of life, any season, we have different opportunities. And for me, I was feeling very empty before my diagnosis with breast cancer. And I prayed to God. I said, God, show me a passion and purpose. Surely you have something for me in this season of my life. Well, I don't believe he gave me breast cancer, but he definitely used that experience to bring a passion and purpose into my life. And also, thousands of women are making these and they share their stories about it being the most meaningful thing that they've done. We're a giving community, us knitters and crocheters and crafters. We make chemo caps, we make hats for the homeless, we make blankets. We love to use our craft to help others, and this is another option for us. It's a small
Mhm.
portable project, and when a woman signs up and registers with us as a knitter or crocheter, we send her ways to help, and it can be as easy as just knitting them or crocheting them and sending them to us unstuffed, and we meet and we stuff those and we use that to fill those that week's orders. And many times, like recently, we've been sending out about 400 a week from the website,
Wow.
but there's many other ways to help, and I won't bore everybody with those ways. But my point in bringing this out is that they many people share that this has a very special meaning to them because they've got a
Mhm.
sister or a mother, or they themselves have been challenged with breast cancer. And knowing that this makes a real practical difference and that women
Mhm.
really do use these, they love them. You can use them for swimming too, by the way. I'm going to throw that out. So it's kind of a three-way blessing. It's the woman that receives
Mhm.
them. It gives them an opportunity to share their story if they wish, and those of us that are willing and able to help. It gives us a purpose.
Mm. Would you talk a little bit more about, you use the term seasons of life, and our listeners are post middle age, and I'm wondering what you think about this idea of purpose in this stage of life. Why is it so important?
Well, I personally believe that when we become very self centered, we lose the joy of life. And sometimes as we age, sometimes we wonder, what can we do? We may not be as physically able as we've always been to do everything. And uh, to find that we can use a simple thing like being able to knit or to crochet to make a significant difference in someone's life is just such a big deal. I like to share the story of Anne in order to illustrate this. We have
Mm-hmm.
a group that meets every Wednesday at our local yarn shop from 10 to noon. We have about 20 to 25 women that gather, and we have a man there too. And we meet to gather up that week's knockers, to stuff them, and to fill orders. And some people are knitting and crocheting, and some are fixing items that need a little tweaking before we send them out. Well, we're a happy, joyful group, and we are just having a great time. That sense of community around a common purpose is just a really cool thing. Well, one week Anne came, and I would put Anne in her 80s, and she didn't say a word. She just sat down and started crocheting. And we're all just laughing, having a great time. Well, when it came time to break up, I followed Anne out to her car and I said to her, I said, Anne, I'm so glad you came today. It was so wonderful having you. And she looked at me and she said, I lost my husband a few years ago. And she said, I've been grieving terrible ever since. And uh, I've tried grief counseling and support groups. And she says, nothing has helped like this has, knowing that I can still make a difference in someone else's life. And Anne has come back every week since, and she's just the most first one there, the last one to leave. She's engaged. And if you go on our website at knittedknockers.org and you look at some of those pictures, you'll see Anne right in the center smiling. Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Oh my gosh.
That's okay.
Okay, that's an outtake.
Barb, what knitting store are you, where's your home knitting store, shall we say?
Yeah, we are in Bellingham, Washington, and Apple Yarns is our wonderful local yarn shop that has been so supportive to us. And yarn shops are a great place for community, and many of them have ready-made groups where people can come together and knit, and many of them embrace these charity projects, what they call charity projects. But so it's a real natural fit for us to meet there weekly.
Hello, Zestful Agers. First, I want to thank you so much for your enthusiasm and interest in the podcast. Words cannot really describe how fun it is to make this for you. We are now in the tens of thousands of downloads, and Zestful Aging is still very young. We've heard from inspiring women from all over the world, and I hope it has made your life richer and helped you be more zestful as you navigate aging. In addition to being fun, making a weekly podcast is a surprising amount of work. So I want to encourage you to become a patron today. It's the way I can continue bringing you in-depth, thought-provoking interviews without sponsorship, aka commercials. And I've added a special free gift just for being a listener to the podcast. It's called My Best Ever Self-Care Manual. And again, it's based on research and my 25 years experience as a psychotherapist. So hop on over to patreon.com/zestfulaging and download the free manual. And while you're there, donate what you might pay for your cup of coffee today. It will make you feel good. I promise. So what's the logistics? Do you buy yarn from the local yarn shop? Are there particular kinds of yarns that are good fit for this? Or how does the process work? You know that you have orders to fill, you have your group, and then what's the next step?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up about the yarn. These knitted knockers are worn every day, and nothing is worn more intimately than these against sensitive scarred skin. And so we're very, very particular about the materials used in making these. So we have approved yarns. There's a list of 30 of them, and you can find them at knittedknockers.org. We also have approved patterns. We have tested and tried a number of patterns. We have a favorite knit and a favorite crochet pattern. And when a person decides that they want to help, we ask that they register with us as a knitter or crocheter, and we send them one email. We don't inundate them with a bunch of stuff, and we send them 3 ways you can help. And one way is to simply knit or crochet them and mail them to us unstuffed, and we take it from there. A second way is to say, I want to support my local medical facility. And so we can help you connect with one of those 1,100 clinics we have and adopt them. And we provide the print materials. We provide the care instructions, the brochures, and all that, but you knit and crochet them or crochet them, and you stuff them and you take them in and provide them with the knockers so a woman can actually pick them out and take them home. And we have about 350 clinics waiting to be adopted. In the meantime, we support them, but we love it when somebody can adopt them locally. The third way is to be what we call a state supplier, and that is somebody that is willing to fill orders from their state. So, for instance, we're located in Washington State, but a woman from California goes into knittedknockers.org and orders her knitted knockers. Well, that order is going to be filled by somebody from California and that has agreed to be a state supplier. So they not only make the knitted knockers, they stuff them, and then they mail them out. Once again, we provide the print materials, but we also help support by paying the postage because we know that this is an expensive venture and that's quite a commitment. Our postage last year was $58,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and we survive by donations. But what we want to do is we want to equip these people to provide for their own communities because it's just too big of a venture for any one group to send out that many. We sent out 48,000 knockers. You can't do that by any one group, but together we can do that. And so the beauty of this sort of arrangement, any one of these, is we can work with you. Whatever you can do, we want to help you to provide either to us, to provide for the world, which we are in 30 international countries as well, or we want to equip you to support your medical clinic or the women of your state. And you're not the only one to fill the orders for your state. So you don't have to go, oh my gosh, there's no way I could fill for all of California. Guess what? We have about 15 providers for California. And so, and if you can only fill one order a week or a month, that's awesome because we will always back up. We're the safety net for everybody. So
You've done this the collaboration and the coordination is so excellent and well done. Is that, do you have these wonderful organizational skills as a former public accountant?
well, thank you so much for that compliment. I believe it's a God thing. I tell you, there's been so many opportunities that open up and so many fabulous volunteers. We have this network locally of these wonderful volunteers that have different skill sets, and we also have networked with people from all across the country. We have people with computer skills that help with the email responses. Our patterns have been downloaded 1 million times.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
we have people that have helped us develop those patterns. We have it takes a village, as they say. So thank you for that compliment. The other amazing thing is that it touches people on so many different levels that we've had some amazing publicity. We have worked for a couple of years. We really focused on developing this network of knitters and crocheters to meet the demand because we knew the demand was there. There are 1 million women living in the United States right now. I heard this statistic that have had mastectomies and not been reconstructed. There are 50,000 mastectomies done a year, and 90% of those women will wear a breast prosthetic at least for a while. And so the demand is huge. So we went to yarn shows, we went to trade shows, places that we could reach out to potential knitters and crocheters. We were very intentional on equipping them. We made the patterns freely available. We made video tutorials on how to make great knitted knockers so that we could equip people to make them for their own communities.
You made
But
it easy for them to help.
well, I laugh about it. I say basically I'm a lazy person. So what would I want to be able to do? Well, I wouldn't know how to make these print materials. So let's do that for them. I don't know how to connect with a medical facility. I know how to knit, but I don't know how to connect. Let's do that for them. I don't know how to take orders on a website. Well, let's do that for them. So that's the whole driving factor there is let's make this easy for people to do what they do well.
I'm curious if you've also connected with Ravelry. And for those listeners who aren't knitters or crocheters, that's basically the Facebook of the knitting world. Is that some? Have you connected with Ravelry as well?
Yes, and we are on a lot of places like Craftsy and a lot of different companies, connection. We do have on Ravelry. We've really focused on Facebook. Facebook is a great connection for us for social media and reaching out to a lot of people. The If you look on Facebook, you just type in Knitted Knockers, and we're the one with the pink ribbon. And we have a lot of state suppliers that we encourage to get their own social media going to help spread the word. The Today Show did a segment on us. We weren't physically there, but we did a remote session. Even People Magazine did a little. I did a Skype with them one early morning, and the Seattle Seahawks, for those of you that may be football fans, can you
Oh
believe
my
it? They
goodness.
chose Knitted Knockers as their charity of the month. So the
Oh
reach
my
out to people,
goodness.
anytime that there's a big reach out like that, uh, it reaches both of our target markets. It reaches the women that can use them, but it also reaches the women that can help make them. So we're always excited about that. And many local groups have gotten media in their local newspapers, their local TV news spots, things like that. So we've got a pretty significant reach out to the knitting and crocheting community. So this last year, 2018, has been our year to focus on the medical, to reach out to the oncology centers, to the breast clinics, and we've invested significantly in our resources, which we value seriously, to go to some trade shows. The American Society of Breast Surgeons, they just flipped out about us. And we signed up 180 clinics at that conference. We went to the National Oncology Nurses conference in Washington, D.C. We signed up over 200 clinics there. So
My
the
goodness.
medical profession, that's where my heart really is, because I know at my most vulnerable time, if I could have just picked out some and taken them home with me, it would have been just so sweet. But I had Phyllis, but not everybody has Phyllis. So we want to be Phyllis to everybody. So if you want a knitted knocker, you can go online at knittedknockers.org and order them. Or if you are participating and going to any one of these 1,100 clinics, great. Or if you are unfortunately dealing with breast cancer and you go to your doctor and say, have you heard of these? Tell them to go to knittedknockers.org and register with us, and we will equip them free of charge again with brochures and ways to help their patients.
I wonder too if one of the ripple effects of all your work and your advocacy and your passion is bringing to light the fact that there's so much breast cancer that it's almost like a become a rite of passage for women.
It is stunning how many women deal with breast cancer, and I hear this all the time. Well, do you have enough, or do you still need knitted knockers, or have you given to everybody? Yes, we still need them. When I asked my doctor, I said, how many are we going to need? Way back in 2011. He's told me locally how many we'd need, but he said, Barbara, he said, you are going to need way more than that, because not only are the current 50,000 a year going to want these, but we've got 10, 15, 20 years of women built up that are so many of them are so unhappy with their silicone prosthetics because they're
Mm-hmm.
so uncomfortable that they're
Mm-hmm.
going to want these. And they also work for people who have had a lumpectomy or have had radiation and their breast has shrunk because they're so adjustable. And as I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, you can use them for swimming as well.
What
Plus,
are they stuffed with, Barb? I didn't
yeah,
understand that part. Tell me what's actually inside.
yeah, we stuff them with a high quality polyfiber fill. Not just any stuffing will hold up. Some will get clumpy and some will, compress and such. But we used Fairfield brand polyfiber fill, the premium level. And we get that
Mm.
at Walmart or Joann's or online. And it is just a fabulous thing. You throw these knitted knockers in the wash machine and you pull them out and you let them air dry. Some people run them through the dryer, but we typically air dry ours, or I did, I should say. And you plop them back in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fantastic. It's simplicity.
And I know this is kind of a knitting nerd question, but do they have to be done on double pointed needles?
Well, if you had asked me a month ago, I would say no. But you know what? Yes, they do.
Okay.
Because we've had enough feedback from our pattern that we had out there of knit flat on two needles. They
Yes,
just aren't as good. And we
I
want
see.
nothing but the best for these. So they've got a seam down them, and it's more difficult to get that beautiful contoured shape that these have. So
I
the
see.
so double points. Oh, no, they don't have to be. I
How about
changed my
magic
answer.
loop? Magic
Magic
loop?
loop. We
Oh,
have a
yeah.
magic loop pattern on our
Okay.
page. Yes, we
Okay,
do.
folks. I just want to put out an announcement about the magicness of Magic Loop. So if people want to do this and they're afraid, like I am, of double pointed, which is a very traditional, people make socks this way, right? And some people get a little squirmy about using. You have to be a little coordinated, I would say. But if you can do Magic Loop, I think that would really excite people.
Yes, yes. Before we run out of time, I'd like to share with anybody that's sitting there and saying, how can I help? There's three ways.
Yes, do it.
One is if you can knit or crochet, go to knittedknockers.org, register with us. We're going to get you going.
Hmm.
Second is if you can knit or crochet, or if you can't, we all have friends. Share with people about that. Share with your doctor. Share with your on Facebook. Go to knittedknockers.org or go to Facebook Knitted Knockers and share some of that stuff out there, because that reaches people that can make them. It also reaches people you may not even know that could use these. And the third
Hmm.
way is to donate. We are all volunteer. As I mentioned, our postage is $58,000 last year. It's going to be higher
Hmm.
this year. So we're all volunteer. There's no paychecks. The volunteers provide their own yarn. We provide the postage, the stuffing, and all the other materials, the mailing materials, as we are able. So those are three ways that you can help.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like such a win-win because one of the things that we know, and you've talked about this, is that as we age, community and connection with our fellow people is is life affirming, and it's even more health promoting than either good diet or exercise. We need to be with our tribe, and the other piece is paying it forward or being helpful and doing these things that you're talking about, where you're creating these gestures of love. You're sending them, and you may never see the person. It may just go right into the mail, and you never hear from them again. But knowing that you are making a significant positive difference in someone's life is so health promoting.
It seriously is. And there's a cute story. It just keeps coming. We hear stories all the time, but this one stood out to me. It was from a 90-something-year-old woman, and she emailed me, and she said, "Oh, I just want to share with you. I'm so excited about this. I'm 90-something years old, and I'm in a nursing home." And she says, "I'm half blind, but I can still see enough with a magnifying glass to knit." And she says, "I am so excited to make these for other women. And I've gotten a group together in the home, and I've got it posted on the bulletin board. We're going to do this." And I just thought, that's it. That is helping not only the recipient, but it's helping her. And so I love it.
And that's beautiful. And we know also that handcrafts really can stave off depression and anxiety. So there's so many pieces of benefit here, not only for the recipients, which is huge, but also, as you say, for the givers, the makers, the people who are getting together in community and saying, let's make this, we know how to do it, we have the skill, and let's give it. I mean, this is really magical.
Yeah, my son asked me a while back, my adult son, he says, "Mom, if you could go back and not have had breast cancer, knowing where you're at right now, would you?" And I could honestly say, no, I would not change a thing, because I have a passion and a purpose now that brings such great joy to me. And it was really, I was in a funk after my mastectomy, but the moment that I embraced this idea, everybody needs these, and I started thinking about others rather than all about poor me, my life changed, and it changed for the better.
Hmm. Yeah, I can just imagine, because it is really hard to describe to somebody what it's like to have a mastectomy. I mean, there's just many levels of loss, and I can just imagine, having these and knowing that someone gets it, someone's been there. It's so hopeful, I think. To
Yeah.
have, yeah, oh my goodness, it's so lovely. Do you have some people doing kind of funky designs too?
We ask that if an order is being filled from us, that you stick to the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
However, 80% of our requests are for the neutral colors, the flesh tones. I think most women are matching their bras. About 10% for bright colors and about 10% for the dark colors. And we encourage our knitters, though, and crocheters, so they don't become bored, to change up the color on the back. So you can put bright colors on the back and have
Mm.
fun with that. Change it up a few rows before the transition row so that it doesn't peek out. But we encourage that. Now, with that said, if you're making it for your friend or family member, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And we have seen some fun ones. When we got that Charity of the Month by the Seattle Seahawks, we made up Seahawk knockers and we handed
Oh.
them out there. And we joke that those women that got those at the game had the most innovative Seahawks attire of anybody there.
Oh, that is, it's so lovely. I can just imagine.
I have a funny story that I know we're going long here, but I'll just tell it and
You're
you can use it or
fine.
not.
You're fine.
Okay. Early on, Phyllis was our main knitter. She's knit like 600 of them by now, but back then she was knitting up a storm and bringing them to me, and I would stuff them out of my laundry room and send them out, or take them to the doctor's office. Well, one time I think she got bored and she dropped off this hairy knocker. It was made out of eyelash yarn, and it was huge, and it was purple with green hair and orange specks. And I thought, oh my gosh, Phyllis, what are you thinking? I didn't say it to her, but I thought, what is she thinking? Nobody's going to want that. But I stuffed up that knocker and I took it to the doctor's office and dropped it off because maybe somebody would choose it. Well, sure enough, it wasn't any time at all. And I get this email from this woman who said, I just wanted to thank you for my knitted knockers. She said, I was in at my doctor's office and I was all depressed and dejected, wondering what I was going to do. And he brought out this bag of knitted knockers. And she said, as I looked through the bag, there was one jewel that shone brighter than the rest. It was purple with green hair and had orange specks. And she said it made me smile at a really difficult time. And she went on to finish with, and my friends just marvel at the beauty of it when I whip it out and show it to them.
Oh my goodness. Goodness.
Whenever I tell that story, I always follow up with, if you're a knitter or crocheter, don't knit hairy knockers. That was an exception.
That's a funny tagline. Don't knit hairy knockers. There's that you just can't throw that around all. Do you get any people? I'm not familiar with your community. Do you get any people who get a little bit flustered at the name knockers?
Yes, and I understand that, and I get it. We did not come up with the name. As I mentioned early on, the pattern was out there, and that is a great story that should be told. When I went to connect with the website to connect with them and say, these are great, can I help you hand them out? I found that the website was not being monitored. And so I did some sleuthing and came up with a phone number, and I called and got a lovely young woman in Maine. And I said, can I help you provide these knitted knockers to doctor's offices? And she said, oh, unfortunately, I no longer own the yarn shop that I had. And so we're unable to provide these anymore. And it breaks my heart because they're so great. And she's a young mother who had a mastectomy herself, and she wore them. She told me that she and her group of knitters were making them for others. And they were sitting around one day saying, what should we call these? And they came up with the name Knitted Knockers. So I asked her, I said, would you mind if I use the name and continue to make them and provide them to doctors' offices and send them out? She said, I would just be thrilled if you would do that. So that was back in 2011. And we kept that name, and there has been pushback occasionally, and I totally get it. But it also is very catchy, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
I personally, this is just me, a little sense of humor is not too bad either now and then. And we used to hear more, but now it's almost like it's been out there enough that I think it's maybe repurposed that name and that use of it. So with that said, I do get it. I do understand. It is slang and not in the most positive way.
Yeah, I'm just curious. It's funny when you go on the British site because it sounds even more slang in a British accent, right? When they say knitted knockers.
Yeah, you're talking about the British site. We are in 30 countries, and we had the privilege of going to Rwanda to train 30 women to make knitted knockers for the women of their country. And now typically we don't do that. And we raised our own money for that. We did not use our 501c nonprofit money for that. But the reason we did that is I got contacted by the head of the Breast Cancer Initiative of East Africa, and she said that the women struggle so much there with I'm missing the word right now. I want to say the stigma of having a breast removed. It's just very shameful there. And so many women choose to not have a mastectomy and forego treatment because of the stigma of that. And so she said they get donated breast prosthetics from the United States, but they're hot and heavy and they're not of their skin color. And the rats eat them. When she told me that, I was like, oh my gosh. And so she said, do you think that knitted knockers would work for them? And I was like, well, I've always thought they are a great solution for third world, the hotter climates, because they're nice and cool and you can wash
Oh,
them and wear
oh
them in a
my
regular bra. You don't
God.
need a prosthesis bra. And so she said, would you come and teach our women?
Oh
She
my
said
goodness.
they know how to knit, but they can't read a pattern. And she sent me a picture of what they had tried to make on their own, and it was pretty, it was adorable, but it wasn't really functional. So three of us did use our own resources, and we went there and spent 2 weeks and trained these 30 beautiful women.
Oh,
It was stunning,
goodness
and they now are
gracious.
connected with the hospitals and providing them free to the women across their
Oh
country.
my goodness. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, Barb. That did your husband and family members go with you, or did you just go
No,
with your knitting group?
just the three of us went, and
Oh,
we
gosh.
had a meeting at a local hospital, the largest hospital in the country. It was in Kigali. And when we sat down with the doctor, he was the head of the hospital, and we handed him a knitted knocker. It was knit in dark brown, and he picked it up and he started to cry, this physician. And Laureen and I looked at each other like, oh, why is he crying? And he said, just yesterday I had a woman in here who needed to have a mastectomy, and she said no. And I said to her, it's your breast or your life. And he said, I had nothing to offer her. We need these. We need to provide these to our women. And before we left, the BCIEA, the Breast Cancer Initiative of East Africa, had connected with them to provide these knitted knockers to them, made by these 30 women that we had trained, who, by the way, many of them are genocide survivors from the great genocide back in 96, I think it was,
Oh my
and
goodness.
very poverty stricken. They earn $1.50 a day, the equivalent of that, working in the fields. So they agreed to pay those women to knit the knitted knockers and then to give them out free. So that gave a source of income to these poverty stricken women, beautiful,
Mm,
wonderful, lovely women, who, by the
mm-hmm.
way, don't speak English. And we, three of us, taught those 30 women how to make
Mm,
knitted knockers on double point needles. So I really
on
don't want to hear
double.
about how you can't make them on.
No, I'm not saying other people can. I'm just saying I have a lot of ladders. Let's just put it that way. And the
I
knitters will
know.
know what that means. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, that
yeah.
is such a beautiful story. I'm just trying to picture because if you don't speak the same language, you're having to really sort of just gesture. This is what this looks like. This is what you do. Here's the way do the stitches. And it's very intimate, I would think.
Well, we have this beautiful picture of Laureen, who is our quote quality queen. She's the one that vets every knitted knocker that comes in to make sure it passes our inspection. But of her leaning over this beautiful young black woman, probably 25 years old, and she's leaning over her with the needles in her hands, helping her. And it's just the most beautiful vision. And if people want to see those pictures, they can find them I believe, under our videos on our at knittedknockers.org, or they can go to
Mm-hmm.
YouTube and do knitted knockers and Google Rwanda knitted knockers, and I believe there's a little video on that too. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just stunning. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely stunning. The ages, the difference in ages there, that we taught. It was a life changing event for us to go. It really
I'm
was.
just trying to, imagine early in your career as a CPA, if someone would have told you you'll be in Rwanda teaching people how to knit, you'd think they'd lost their mind.
I agree. I agree. It's
Oh my goodness.
And it's interesting when you look back over your life and you see how your experiences are woven together. My mom teaching me how to knit when I was about 10, 11 years old, sitting next to her on the sofa. I have such great memories of that. But then fast forward to probably in my 50s, I engaged with knitting and decided I needed some community. So I went to Apple Yarns, our local yarn shop, and I met some ladies that met there every week. And we knit together, just jabbering up a storm. And then when I got breast cancer, I went back to that group and I said, I've had breast cancer and we're making these now. Would you consider helping? And they did. So you can kind of see that thread going through your life, of how they can pull those experiences together and use those.
That's just a beautiful, beautiful story. So I'm going to put in, I want to make sure I put in the show notes, and it's knittedknockers.org. Is there
Yes.
anything else you'd like to tell our listeners before we end today?
I would just share that there is a purpose for our lives in every season of our life. And if it's not knitting knockers for somebody, I'm sure there's something else. Don't give up looking for that, because without passion and without purpose, life is pretty dull, in my opinion. So I think get involved. Get involved in any way you can with something that's meaningful to you.
That's great advice, and really, the research really supports that, and I think that's a lovely message. What's next, Barb? Do you have any other projects that you're doing with the Knitted Knockers, or you just continue to try to spread the word?
I go through every door that opens. And if a door closes, I go, okay, that's not meant to be. So I'm always excited to see what the next opportunity is. Right now, we are focused so much on reaching out to the medical community, and it'll take us into September to catch up with providing the first round of materials to these clinics. So we're pretty busy on that. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. My husband recently retired, so we are hoping to do a little more travel on the personal note. But what's so wonderful is they don't need me at all. This wonderful network of volunteers around the country are just so awesome that it's just amazing. You equip people to do something, and they want to help. Just give them what they need to make it happen, and they're more than willing to do it.
And you've made it, yeah, and you've given them what they need, and your passion is it's palpable, and it's contagious, and I can imagine that really helps people get drawn in and want to work on this project. Thank you so much for talking about this. I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of our listeners, unfortunately, who have had mastectomies themselves or have known other women who could benefit from this. It's just a beautiful gift. Thank you so much, Barb.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, totally. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. I love to hear from my listeners, so send me an email at NicoleChristina.com and tell me what you'd like to hear more about. I would also greatly appreciate if you could hop on iTunes and rate the show. Ratings help other people find the podcast so I can share all these good, juicy interviews with others. I would also invite you to become a patron of the Zestful Aging podcast. Hop on over to patreon.com/Zestful Aging and consider making a small donation. You will be eligible for insider-only goodies and behind-the-scenes information, and it'll help you feel good knowing that you're contributing to the Zestful Aging podcast. I'll look forward to sharing more juicy interviews next week on Zestful Aging.